أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والمرسلات عرفا فالعاصفات عصفا والناشرات نشرا فالفارقات فرقا فالملقيات ذكرا عذرا أو نذرا إنما توعدون لواقع فإذا النجوم طمست وإذا السماء فرجت وإذا الجبال نسفت وإذا الرسل أقتت لأي يوم أجلت ليوم الفصل وما أدراك ما يوم الفصل ويل يومئذ للمكذبين ألم نهلك الأولين ثم نتبعهم الآخرين كذلك نفعل بالمجرمين ويل يومئذ للمكذبين ألم نخلقكم من ماء مهين فجعلناه في قرار مكين إلى قدر معلوم فقدرنا فنعم القادرون ويل يومئذ للمكذبين ألم نجعل الأرض كفاتا أحياء وأمواتا وجعلنا فيها رواسي شامخات وأسقيناكم ماء فراتا ويل يومئذ للمكذبين انطلقوا إلى ما كنتم به تكذبون انطلقوا إلى ظل ذي 3 شعب لا ظليل ولا يغني من اللهب إنها ترمي بشرر كالقصر كأنه جمالة صفر ويل يومئذ للمكذبين هذا يوم لا ينطقون ولا يؤذن لهم فيعتذرون ويل يومئذ للمكذبين هذا يوم الفصل جمعناكم والأولين فإن كان لكم كيد فكيدون ويل يومئذ للمكذبين إن المتقين في ظلال وعيون وفواكه مما يشتهون كلوا واشربوا هنيئا بما كنتم تعملون إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين ويل يومئذ للمكذبين كلوا وتمتعوا قليلا إنكم مجرمون ويل يومئذ للمكذبين وإذا قيل لهم اركعوا لا يركعون ويل يومئذ للمكذبين فبأي حديث بعده يؤمنون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخذلها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك الإثم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تقطع الرجاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك واستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع متضرع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانيا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعزم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عزم سلطانك ولا مكانك وخفي مكرك وزهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجارت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائه ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترت وكم من فاده من البلاء يقلت وكم من إثار وقيت وكم من مكروه دفعت وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرت. اللهم عزم بلائي وأفرط بسوء حالي وكسرت بأعمالي وقادت بأغلالي وحبسني النفي بعد عملي وخدتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومثالي. يا سيدي فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في كل الأحوال رؤوفا وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لغيرك أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي وأجريت علي حكم اتبعت في هوى نفسي ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي فغرني بما أحوى وأسأده على ذلك القضاء فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعد حدودك وخالفت بعض أوامرك. فلك الحمد علي في جميع ذلك ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك والزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا. لا أجد مفر مما كان مني ولا مفزا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في ساعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عزمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد من طوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تزيع من ربيت أو تبعد من عدنيت أو تشرد من عاويت أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادق وبشكرك مادها وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة وعلى ضمائر رهوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة وعلى جوارها ساعت الأوطان تعبدك طائعة وأشارت باستغفارك مذئنة ما هكذا الظن بك ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثو يسير بقاء كثير مدة فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقام ولا يخفف عن أهله لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي لأي الأمور إليك أشكو ولما من هذا الجوابك لعليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته فلئن سيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك وهبني صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لازجن إليك بين أهلها زجيج العاملين ولا أصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين ولا أبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين ولا أنادينك إن كنت يا ولي المؤمنين يا غاية آمال العارفين يا غياث المستغيثين يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتي وذاك طعم عذابها بمعصيتي وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرتي وهو يزج إليك زجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك ورأفتك أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يعمل فضلك ورحمتك أم كيف يهركه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانك أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا رب أم كيف يرجو فضلك في إتكه منها فتتركه فيها هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك ولا المعروف من فضلك ولا مشبه لما عملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك فباليقين أكتو لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاهديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما وما كان لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما لكنك تقدست أسماؤك أقسمت أن تملاها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي هتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت وكل ذنب أذنبت وكل قبيح أسررت وكل جهل عملته كتمته أو أعلنته وأخفيته أو أزهرته وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جواره وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت أو إحسان فضلته أو بر نشرته أو رزق بسطته أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي يا من بيده ناصيتي يا عليما بذري ومسكنتي يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب أسألك بحقك وقدسك وعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا وبخدمتك موصولا وأعمالي عندك مقبولا حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي يا ربي يا ربي يا رب قوي على خدمتك جواره واشتد على العزيمة جوانه وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك حتى أسرع إليك في ميادين السابقين وأسرع إليك في المبارزين وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين وأخافك مخافة الموقنين وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فارده ومن كادني فكد واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك وأقربهم منزلة منك وأخصهم زلفة لديك فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك وجد لي بجودك وعطف علي بمجدك واحفظني برحمتك واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا وقلبي بحبك متيما ومن علي بحسن إجابتك وأقلني أسرتي واغفر لي زلتي فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك وأمرتهم بدعائك وزمنت لهم الإجابة فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي وبلغني مناي ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي يا سريع الرضا اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء فإنك فعال لما تشاء يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام يا نور المستوحشين في الظلم يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أحلو وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم صل على محمد. سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Sayyid Hasan Rizvi, respected elders, dearest brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Surah Fatiha is requested for all marhumeen listed on the screen as well as all other marhumeen. Please recite Surah Fatiha. Bismillah. Dua Shafa'i Mariz is also requested for all those in need here and elsewhere, as well as those listed on the screen. Let us recite together. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. Amma yujibul mudtarra idha da'a wa yakshifu su. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء. Ya Allah. Let us now invite Sayyid Hasan Rizvi to please recite tonight's Majlis with a salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين بالقاسم المصطفى محمد. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. Mu'mineen, mu'minat, brothers and sisters in Islam and Iman, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm going to begin tonight. There's one question that was submitted, so we're going to take a look at that first. Person asks, the holidays are approaching and many employers host parties. If an employer is willing to reserve an alcohol-free table at a party to cater for Muslims, what would be your take on attending? So there's a few different rulings that apply for this. There's the specific idea of sitting at a table where alcohol is there, where there's a problem in terms of sitting and eating, etc. But this ruling is more about the gathering, because if a person's saying that, well, they'll be at a table and there won't be any alcohol there, so would attending the gathering be problematic? So according to Ayatul Sistani, gatherings like this are problematic because you're still in the presence of alcohol and drinking and sin and guna. The only exception that at least I found in some books that he mentions, the only exception is if somebody is going there and can perform nahi anil munkar. So if they're going there and they assume that they're going to be able to try to advise or command these individuals or stop them from drinking, then that would be the exception. But if it's a holiday party, I don't think you're going to be going there and doing that. So based on this, it doesn't seem like it's advisable, and it's probably best to stay away from gatherings like this. Now that we have this Q&A thing set up again, I believe the link for the Q&A should be, I think it'll be advertised at some point as well, hic.news/ask. And then I think either they'll put it on the screen at some point or they'll send it around. Oh, there's another question here. Okay, interesting. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay. Is it true Shia are not supposed to buy food from Hindus, Sikhs, cooked versus buying groceries, etc.? This should suffice the clarity of the question on hand. Is it true that Shias? No, this is not true. You can buy food that's been made by Hindus, Sikhs, atheists, As long as it's not Zionist, then you're okay, right? At least for now. Whether it's cooked or groceries or whatever, again, I think people get confused about this based on the way that it may have been explained in other countries. As long as you do not have yaqeen that there was some transfer of najasa, meaning if they had cooked it with wet hands and you were there and you observed it happening, that's different. But we don't go to the back of the kitchen. I'm not sure you don't know what's happening in the factory. So just somebody's religion is not enough to say that this disqualifies us purchasing their food or their cooking or things like that. And what some ulama advise too is if you are in an area where, well, let's say you are at a restaurant, and this happens a lot, Muslim-owned restaurants, and they have non-Muslims, like Hindus, for example, working in the back. They said, oh, well, I'm sure the person's going to wash their hands and there's going to be some transfer. Like you're saying I'm sure is not defined as yaqeen. You would actually have to witness and get absolute certainty that that's what happened and there was an actual transfer of najasat. You don't have to go back in the kitchen with your binoculars, your microscope, or start examining. None of that's required. You don't have to do that. If you don't have the yaqeen, then it is allowable to eat. So, but again, where you want to go and who you want to, give your money to, that's absolutely a personal preference as well. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, let's move on to our continued topic. We've been talking about ihsan to parents. For the past 2 weeks, we went through some of the rulings. In general, we went through the basic principles of when it is wajib to obey parents, when is it mustahab, when is it haram. And last week, we kind of broke down some of the rulings of Ayat al-Sistani on the matter, hafidhahullah. For tonight, what I'd like to go through now is how ihsan, especially towards parents, has been addressed by the Ahlul Bayt themselves, right? Because they've been asked about this too. So where we'll start off for tonight is first, somebody has come up and asked a question to our sixth Imam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, alayhi salatu wassalam. And he says, I'm asking him about وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So he's asking about, that's oft-repeated part of ayat that come, right? And do ihsan to your walidain, your parents. So he asked the Imam, مَا هَذَا الْإِحْسَان? It's like, okay, this ihsan that's being mentioned, well, what is that exactly? So again, it's not just us and our lack of understanding of Arabic. Many of the companions, they realize that, look, maybe my superficial understanding of this word is not enough. There's probably something deeper behind this that I have to go ask the Imam about, right? And we want to make sure that we also don't rely on just translations and things like that. Even the Arabs, these people who are asking, they are living amongst, the pure Fusha Arabic. And still they're asking the Imams to explain these simple, quote-unquote, terms. The Imam replies, Al-Ihsan, what is Ihsan? An tuhsina suhbatuhuma wa an la tukallifuhuma an yas'alaka shay'a mimma yahtajuna ilay wa in kana mustaghniyin. So what is Ihsan according to the sixth Imam in explaining these ayat? He says, Ihsan is when you beautify in the best way possible your level of companionship and the way you accompany and spend time with your parents. And then he adds, and it's also that you do not put any taklif on them at all regarding whatever they might need in their life. Any ihtiyaj, any hajat that they have, never put any sort of taklif on them where they're going to have to come and ask you about it. Meaning you step forward and you take care of it before they even ask. And we've seen similar riwayat about this, that the fuqara are also supposed to be taken care of in the same way. That yes, if somebody asks, they have a need and they say, I'm in need, can you help me? Then that has its own level of merit. But the Ahlul Bayt have said the best level of sadaqah is when you give before the person even asks. Because it's an undignifying thing, obviously, to have to go and ask. Imagine if parents have to go and kind of ask or request their children for help. And that's why the Imam even adds the condition, وَإِن كَانَ مُسْتَغْنِيَيْن. Even if they are ghani, even if they're independent, even if they're doing okay, if you know that they are in need of something, don't wait till they ask, don't wait till they make the request. Real ihsan is stepping forward and taking care of it on our own. After this, the Imam then quotes a part of Surah Al-Imran, Surah 3, ayah number 92. He just quotes the beginning part of that, where it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. That you will never attain bir. You'll never get to true goodness until what? You do infaq, you give, you spend, you start to distribute and give up things what? Mimma tuhibbun, things that you love. Now, why is the Imam mentioning it here? Well, think about it. In most of our situations, if our parents are in need of something, whether they make the request or not, I have to go spend my time, spend my money. If I have free time, if I don't have free time, I have to set up almost like this. I have to mentally get myself prepared to go and do something. Some people are in a situation where maybe it's not a big deal for them. Right? Maybe many of you are that type where, your parents ask you something, there's no taklif on you. Like, I'm happy to help out. Some individuals are not like that. Some of us, unfortunately, when our parents, whether they're living with us in the same neighborhood or community, or whether they're overseas, when they make requests, the immediate sort of reaction is like, ugh, now I can't do this, or I have to go and do this. The first thing that comes to mind is the amount of taklif that we have to deal with, the amount of zahmat and pressure and burden that comes on our shoulders. Where the Imam's saying, look, if you want to actually be a good person, Real goodness is not going to happen until you're able to sacrifice things that you love, meaning your time, your quality time, your time to be by yourself or to relax, your leisure time, whatever it happens to be. Or extra funds maybe that you were setting aside for certain things, maybe because your parents have requested something, or maybe you know that they're in need of something. This extra money, vacation money, ziyarah money, something maybe you set aside. Imam's saying over here, look, this is things that you have to give away that you love. And of course, the idea is that if somebody in their mind has the greatest object of love being their parents, then giving away what they love is not going to be a big deal at all. Right? So this is also calling into question what exactly is the relationship with our parents also. Right? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So after this, then the Imam continues and he brings some other ayat to continue describing what ihsan to parents actually is. So then he jumps to Surah al-Isra. He goes towards the end or the middle of ayah 23 and then goes on to ayah 24. So over there, he says, he goes to, again, to the middle of it. إِمَّا يَبْلُغَنَّ عِنْدَكَ الْكِبْرِ أَحَدُهُمَا. So, meaning this ihsan, you should be doing it even if one of them becomes senior, elder, أو كلاهما, or both of them become older. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Don't even say to your parents, uff. And then the Imam, there after he quotes this part of the ayah, he adds a short little tafsir. He says, in adrajak, even, like don't say uff to them, even if they irritate you, even if they upset you, even if they are the biggest cause of your dissatisfaction, don't say uff. Then the Imam goes to ayah 24. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Don't reject them, don't repel them, don't push them away. After quoting again this part of the ayah, the Imam makes a little parenthetical tafsir, in darabak, meaning don't repel them, don't push them away, don't keep your distance, even if they hit you, even if they abuse you, even if they strike you. And these principles we've mentioned in previous sessions, so I'm not going to go into this. But even here, the Imams have emphasized the fact that, look, no matter how much abuse one's parents give, this level of ihsan is never going to go away, right? And then the Imam adds over there as well, the ayat of the Quran, which ends ayah 24, وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. And always say things which are kareem, which are noble, which are honorable things to them. Now, the Imam describes what qawlun kareem is. Let me add that point in. So he says, وَالْقَوْلُ الْكَرِيمُ أَن تَقُولَ لَهُمَا غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمَا. He says, what is this qawlun kareem? How does somebody actually speak nobly with their parents? He says, given all those possibilities, where your parents could be the worst of the worst, they could be abusive, they could be oppressive, they could annoy you and upset you, everything. He says, at the end of the day, noble words towards them or for them is saying, غَفَرَ اللَّهُ لَكُمَا. May Allah forgive them. No matter, there's no pure evil that parents can ever reach in that respect, right? So that's what the Imam seems to emphasize. فَذَاكَ مِنْكَ قَوْلٌ كَرِيمٌ. Saying that is one example of qawlun kareem. So, and we discussed this previously, so I don't want to keep going into it, but it's this idea that literally, my parents can really do no wrong. The fact that they are acting as intermediaries, they have acted as intermediaries on behalf of Allah, brought me into this world, given me sustenance, food, shelter, given me the basic skill sets for all of us, or many of us at least, the basic ideas about Islam and the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. These are irreplaceable things. These are priceless things. Regardless, with all the abuse that may happen, even there, the Imams are saying you should still be praying for their forgiveness. Now, there's another side discussion that I want to go over here, going back to that previous point. And this is a point this ayah, this part of the ayah is, quoted a lot. فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Don't say uff to your parents. So I want to stop over here and just have a quick little digression, if you don't mind, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Many people ask, we had this conversation many times before, but I want to bring this in because this is a good example. People always ask, what is the role of the aql and the intellect in Islam, especially in fiqh? Where do we get to use reason and logic? We know that there is some part of it, but can you show us where it's possible? Can you give us any sort of clear example? And one of the clearest examples that's given is right here in this part of the ayah, right? What the text literally says is, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفٍّ. Do not say to your parents, uff. If we were being literalist, that's where we would stop, right? Don't say oof to your parents. So what does that also mean? I can't say oof, but maybe I can say something else to them. Right? Maybe I can swear at them. Maybe I can curse. Maybe I can be rude and mean. I just won't use the words oof in Arabic. Maybe I'll say ugh, or maybe I'll, I don't know, make some other random sound, or I'll sigh at them, or I'll roll my eyes at them. Like the Quran doesn't say anything against that, does it? It's just saying don't say oof. Like, okay, so I won't say, hamza fa. I won't put these two sounds together, but I'll say everything else. Does the Quran say don't punch them in the face? It doesn't say that either. So now you're all laughing like, what kind of weird Wahhabi understanding are you doing here? Like, well, this is the point. Every single person, whether we realize it or not, we're applying some level of rationalizing and applying our aql on this part of the ayah. When it says, don't say uff, we automatically know that don't even say uff, right? We add that parenthetically ourselves because we know that what? Uff is just an example of rude sort of behavior, rude language. So if that kind of bare minimum, if that's the problem that Allah is saying, then pretty much everything else is going to be a problem too. This is what is known in fiqh as qiyas al-awlawiyya. Now, I have to rewind a little bit. Many of us have kind of heard over and over again that in Shia fiqh, qiyas is not allowed. So that's not exactly true. There's certain types of qiyas, most types of qiyas that at least the other madhahib engage in, that's not allowed. But at least for the majority of fuqaha and mujtahideen, there are a few different types of qiyas which are allowed. One of them is this. It's called qiyas al-awlawiyya, which basically is an analogy using a stronger argument from something that is preceding. And what does that mean? For those of you who like your Latin kind of legal language, it's an a fortiori argument. It's you're arguing from a stronger position. So what does that mean? Well, recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let's say, parents, we tell our kids, I don't want to hear a peep out of you. It's okay, you don't want to hear a peep, so what if I say a poop? What if I say something else, right? But what if I make some other sound? A child wants to be smart and wise, they'll do that. It's like, you said peep. I didn't say peep. I can say every other word though, right? Or I can start banging pots together and making all these other sounds. I'm just not going to say peep. Like, no, don't be so literal. Don't be such a literalist. We all understand in language when something like that is said, I don't want to hear a peep out of you, is that I don't want to hear any sound whatsoever, right? Peep is the smallest amount possible, right? The quietest thing that you can imagine, right? The small little chick making a sound. Like, I don't want to even hear that. So if at the bare minimum, I'm saying that this is not allowed, then everything that's greater than that and larger than that, or quote unquote worse than that is of course going to be not allowed too, right? So that's how qiyas al-awlawiyya works. And this is the example that they always use in fiqh books. La taqul lahuma uff. Don't say uff. They say, look, when we hear this, when any person realizes it, even a Wahhabi, right? You could use this example against them. They say, is Allah saying here, just don't say uff, but every other thing, no holds barred, you can use any other language you want? Of course not. Any person who has a semi-working aql would realize that no, that's not how language works. And there's a very clear reason why Allah's putting this in this language. And here the Imam, once again, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, alayhi salatu wassalam, he explains this part too. He says, لو علم الله لفظ أوجز في ترك عقوق الوالدين من أف لآتى به. He said, if Allah Himself knew any expression that would have been more concise, more brief, more minimal than in regards to expressing disobedience to parents, than this idea of uff, then Allah would have used that instead. Meaning Allah saying, I'm giving you the bare minimum sound that you can't do, so you understand you can't do anything else. I'm telling you that this bare minimum, you can't even do that. So that hopefully the reader, the reciter, the person who's trying to understand this relationship with parents understands that Allah does not want to hear a peep out of us, basically, right? Like, don't speak up to your parents, don't speak back, don't be rude, don't roll your eyes, don't make these sounds. It's trying to establish the type of relationship that He wants. And as we saw from the previous context clues, from previous riwayat, other ayat, that yes, this is even the case when they are zalimeen, which is tough to believe. But this is the status that Allah has given. This is why Allah wants us to understand that. So again, I want to just bring this in because people have asked before, people say there is aql allowed in Islam. Like, yes, this is one example. But to get to a point like this, it has to be so obvious that every single person, Any rational, reasonable person who would read this would realize that, no, Allah doesn't just mean one little phrase here. He means a lot more than that. And there are many times in ayat of the Quran, in other riwayat, where the same principle applies as well too, right? I don't want to get into details, but there are some riwayat or ayat where one specific thing is mentioned, but it actually means a lot more than that. I mean, again, in language, you and I use it all the time too. Kids are eating, and they're not really being careful while they're eating, and let's say they're wearing on nice new clothes, it's like Eid or something, and they drop something, it's like, hey, don't get your shirt dirty. It's like, okay, can I get my pants dirty? Like, no, you're missing the point here, right? So it's people who are being extra smart, but if they really were being wise and not trying to be funny, then they'd understand the basic principle, which I think any person who understands how language works, how people speak, then they would understand this principle over here, which we use in fiqh as well. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam continues in the next ayah, in ayah 24 now, and again we're continuing from Surah Isra. وَحْفِظْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الظُّلِّ or dhil min ar-rahma. Lower, for your parents, lower the wings of humility out of rahmah and mercy. And the Imam explains, what does this mean when Allah is saying lower your wings out of mercy for them? He says, وَهُوَ أَنْ لَا تَمْلَأَ عَيْنَيْكَ مِنَ النَّظَرِ إِلَيْهِمَا. He says it's that it's an interesting expression the Imam uses. He says it's that you don't fill your eyes when you're looking at them, except that you look at them with mercy. Meaning, anytime you think, over here, literally saying look, but we can extend it out to mean think as well. Anytime the idea of my parents comes to my mind, or I'm looking at them, he said the only thing that should occur to me is rahmah and nothing else. It shouldn't be, I'm upset with them. It shouldn't be that I can't stand what they're doing right now. It shouldn't be that I can't believe they're saying something like this. They're so embarrassing. X, Y, Z, all these different things that, let's be honest, to me it has happened before, which I'm not proud of, but sometimes it happens. The idea here is not to make us feel bad in that sense. It's to show us that, look, Allah is trying to say that there is an ideal relationship that is required, right? That every single look, every thought that occurs about parents, Allah is saying, look, you need to be able to lower yourself, be humble, and think of rahmah, nothing but rahmah for your parents, right? He says, so when you're looking at them, وَتَنْظُرَ إِلَيْهِمَا بِالرَّحْمَةِ وَرَأْفَةِ, right? This leniency, this kindness is like, that's the only way you should be looking at them. To always be giving the benefit of the doubt. وَأَنْ لَا تَرْفَعَ صَوْتَكَ فَوْقَ أَصْوَاتِهِمَا. Then he starts giving examples of this. Don't raise your voice louder than them. Don't speak over them, whether physically speaking over them or being actually louder than them. وَلَا يَدَكَ فَوْقَ أَيْدِيَهِمَا. Don't raise your hands above them. Could be literal or more allegorical. وَلَا تَتَقَدَّمْ قُدَّامَهُمَا. And don't step ahead of them as well. Right? So these are some examples of the types of akhlaq that Allah wants to try to get us to understand, that the idea of service to parents is a constant thing, which doesn't matter whether they're old or young, doesn't matter whether they're in need or not, financially, physically. This relationship of pure love and mercy is there throughout. And inshallah, we pray that hopefully we are able to act upon this in our lives. For those whose parents are alive, may Allah give them a long life. And for those whose parents have passed, may Allah bless them and give them a higher station in maqam in Jannah. We'll move on to our Slido quiz for tonight with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One more salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay, I think we're ready to get started. All right, good luck everybody. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In sujood, which parts of the feet must touch the ground? Any of the any two toes, the two big toes, but if the other toes also touch, it's not a problem. Or the two big toes, but if other toes touch, it's batil. So which parts of the feet must touch the ground? Yes, so it's the second one. So the two big toes have to at least be there. If other toes also touch, meaning it's all of your toes, then that's not a problem. That's okay. Number 2. Taking care of one's needy parents, financially and physically, is what? Is it wajib, mustahab, yani recommended? Is it mustahab and recommended only if they ask, or wajib only if they ask? What is the ruling regarding taking care of one's needy parents, financially and physically? Remember, we went through this last week, that it is wajib, yes. They don't have to ask, you need to go out and do this. We have to do it on our own. Okay, so let's see. In first place so far, we have, looks like, Muhammad Abbas. I guess that's probably at the end, right? Muhammad Abbas. And then Homer, which is probably a default name that didn't get changed. And then AM, whoever that could be. Number 3, there is no place for using qiyas, analogy, in Shia fiqh. Is this true or false? That there's no place for using qiyas, analogy, in Shia fiqh. I don't know, where were 10 of you 5 minutes ago? I don't Oh, man. Yes. There are a few instances of qiyas, like qiyas al-awlawiyya, which is utilized by our mujtahideen. Yes. Last question. What does the word al-Quds refer to? Is it Masjid al-Aqsa, Jerusalem, all of Palestine, or the Dome of the Rock? What does al-Quds refer to? You know, these terms get tossed around a lot, and some people, a lot of us, we don't know what they refer to. Let's see. No, that's incorrect. Al-Quds is the name of the city of Jerusalem in Arabic, right? In Arabic. It's Al-Quds, or sometimes known as, sometimes called Bayt al-Maqdis, different names, but Al-Quds is the most popular name. Okay, that's it. Let's see if Muhammad Abbas was able to stay in first place. I don't think so. Or did? Nope. Oh, it's a tie between Nicholas and AM. I don't even know who they are. So good job, Santa Claus, and whoever was the other person. Muhammad Abbas was in third place, or I guess second place, yeah. Okay, before we go, just a reminder about some upcoming sessions. Next Friday night, I believe, we have our youth game night. So bring whatever games you want. I know last time somebody brought a TV plus a Switch. So if you want to bring your TV, you can bring your TV again. People are bringing different sports equipment, and some people are just bringing board games, card games, things like that. So hopefully we can see you next Friday. And remember, there's a registration sheet, so please do fill that out too, so we have a good count. And then, what else? We have the Sister Circle, which is coming up on the 18th, I think. I think it's on the 18th. It will be a Saturday. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we'll be discussing the modern method of delivery of Islam and whether we have to change traditional Islam. How do we package it in modern ways for people to understand? And that's it for tonight. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Ahl Baytihi at-Tayyibin at-Tahirin.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا نبي الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين عليه السلام ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثار والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وأعطيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونحيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة زلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الأسلاب الشامخة والأرحام المتحرة، لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرذي الزكي الحادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولدك كلمة التقوى وعلام الهدى والأروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبيا بكم موقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي، وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة زلمتك، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباه. السلام عليكم يا أسفياء الله وعوداه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار رسول الله. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار فاطمة الزهراء سيدتي نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد الحسن بن علي الولي الناسه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله. بأبي أنتم وأمي تبتم وتابت العرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. فيا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن سيد الوسيين. السلام عليك يا ابن أول القوم إسلاما وأقدمهم إيمانا وأقومهم بدين الله وأحوتهم على الإسلام. أشهد لك أن نصحت لله ولرسوله ولأخيك فنعم الأخ المواسي. فلعن الله أمة قتلتك، ولعن الله أمة زلمتك، ولعن الله أمة استحلت منك المخارم وانتهكت حرمة الإسلام. فنعم الصابر المجاهد المحامي الناصر والأخ الدافع عن أخي المجيب إلى طاعة ربي الراغب فيما زهد في غير من الثواب الجزيل والثناء الجميل. وحقق الله بدرجة آبائك في جنات النعيم. السلام عليكم يا أهل بيت النبوة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء وبعيد المدى. السلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله ابن الحسن، يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. مع الصلوات.